Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and like my colleagues, I want to say for the record how much we miss Senator McCain and wish him a speedy recovery. I also note that Senator Reid and Senator King talked about DIUX, so I won't go back through this, but I do want to express my very strong support for the work you're doing there and how much more we can do with DIUX. What I wanted to focus on, General Selva, I've heard you publicly describe the main global threats that we face as challenges: Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and violent extremism. I want to ask you about another global threat, and that's climate change. A Defense Department report from 2 years ago observed, and I'm going to quote it here, global climate change will have wide-ranging implications for U.S. national security interests over the foreseeable future because it will aggravate existing problems such as poverty, social tensions, environmental degradation, ineffectual leadership, and weak political institutions. In short, this DoD report described climate change as a threat multiplier. So, General Selva, what impact do you believe that the changing climate will have on the military services? And what do you believe the Department of Defense should be doing now to prepare for this impact?
Thank you, ma'am. The dynamics that are happening in our climate will drive uncertainty and will drive conflict. And I'll just provide one example of how that can happen, and this is a man-made problem. The dams along the Nile River control the flow of water into what was the Fertile Crescent of Egypt. And any change to that water flow causes the Egyptians to become more hostile to their neighbors who are putting dams upstream of the Egyptian stretch of the Nile River. I could build that argument in a variety of countries around the world, and those are man-made problems, not directly related to climate change, but related to how we as humans change our environment. If you extend that argument to the kinds of things that might happen if we see tidal rises, if we see increasing weather patterns of drought and flood and forest fires and other natural events that happen inside of our environment, then we're going to have to be prepared for what that means in terms of the potential for instability in regions of the country where those impacts happen. Particularly today, places where there's massive food instability. The Sahel in Africa is a classic example where a small drought over a limited period of time can decimate the crops and cause instability and make that an area fertile for recruitment of extremists because they see no other way. Similarly, you could look at the decimation of the fisheries off Somalia that contributed to piracy because the fishermen couldn't make their livelihood by doing what they do best, which is fishing on the fishing grounds off of Somalia. So I think we need to be prepared for those. It will cause us to have to address questions like humanitarian disaster relief, and it will also cause us to have to focus on places where climate instability might cause actual political instability in regions of the world we hadn't previously had to pay attention to.
So as climate change is an ongoing phenomenon, one that right now is worsening, the climate change is going to have a profound impact directly on our military and on our military infrastructure and on how the military is able to carry out its mission. So I really hope, in addition to all the other global challenges that you have in front of you, and I know they are many and I know they are serious, we need you to lead today on this challenge, General. Tomorrow may be too late. So I want to follow up in just the little bit of time I have remaining on Senator King's question about the third offset. And I know you've made this a priority all during your first term, and I assume you will do the same if you're there for a second term. But what I'm concerned about is that we don't appear to be moving very fast. Many of the technologies that we're talking about here are still in the development phase. Meanwhile, our near-peer competitors are continuing to improve their capabilities. It can take years, sometimes decades, from the time we first sign a contract for a new technology to actually make it out into the field. So let me just ask you if you can say something very briefly, because we're really over time, and you can take this for the record. What can we do about this to speed up our response time here?
I would make 2 quick points.
Okay, and let's make them quick.
First is rapid prototyping. We have to be willing to invest and fail in systems that might not work. The second is we can't be bashful about bringing new software into our architectures. And so we have worked very closely with some of the companies in Silicon Valley to do rapid prototyping, testing, and deployment of software that helps with things like automatic target recognition and change detection. I think those are 2 things that we could do right now and be quite successful.
Good. I know you share my concern about being outpaced by technology, and how much you make this a priority. You'll have, I think, everyone's support here as you make that a priority. Thank you.